Eventually, over the ages as the years go by, there comes a time where it would be better if a franchise just started to get milked a bit. And I think that now's the time we would be better off seeing that happen to Fallout. And that's not even too far-fetched of a proposition. As sacred as Fallout is to franchise purists, the reality is that the franchise has already seen spin-offs ranging from the cash shop promo game that is Fallout Shelter to the infamously shoddy Dark Alliance clone of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel for the PS2. But don't get me wrong, I want to put this video out as a request to get more attention and discussion flowing towards this concept, because I think putting out 2 or 3 Fallout spin-offs in the next few years would be a great idea. But I doubt anyone wants to see anything other than good games being associated with this brand. But the reason why I'm optimistic about this brand is because Fallout New Vegas was a happy accident that proved that non-numbered spin-off sequels could be more faithful to the originals than the official numbered sequel that came after them. As controversial as it was, Bethesda turning Fallout into a mass-marketable first-person gore porn for a wider audience was probably the best thing that could have happened to the franchise, because it allowed New Vegas to happen, and that's the often overlooked positive underside of things becoming big business. When enough money is circulating around a property, they can afford to take more risks with it, hand it off to different teams for different interpretations to look at it from different angles and maybe mix up something nice. Assuming that they don't want to start milking the same thing over and over again, but the last time Bethesda tried to mix things up, the collaborative effort was a game so freaking good that it would be ridiculous for them not to try that again. Fallout 4 sold 12 million copies on day 1. It has become mainstream. There was a Conan O'Brien video about it. Normal people are into Fallout all of a sudden, and Bethesda is making bank on that. It would be ridiculous for them not to capitalize on that effort, but the effort doesn't have to be throwaway concepts either. There's a lot of room to explore in Fallout, but the obvious answer is having another mid-sized RPG team like Obsidian reuse Fallout 4's assets to give that game another shot. Because just about everything there is to love about Fallout 4 has its price. A lot of good features with broken execution, pretty visual designs on top of a dated and overworked graphics technology, or compelling gameplay mechanics on top of loose and imprecise gameplay technology. And for as much as it has going for it, there's a few ingredients missing that keep Fallout 4 from reaching that next level, and 2 of them are character and creativity. Fallout 4 has a serious problem with its dialogue system and the writing attached to it, as well as the quests written into these dreary, swampy wastes. Though I did enjoy it and had fun with it, what Fallout 4 has me really excited about is the possibility of them planning another big FPS RPG New Vegas-style spin-off sequel. Because Fallout 4 is a good foundation for what could be an excellent game. I would love it if someone could come along and stamp some better dialogue and quests onto this thing. That, at the bare minimum, would be enough to really set it apart, and on a generalized level, that's exactly what New Vegas was. And with as much criticism being levied at this dialogue system as there is, I would hope and expect the next project using this system to learn from Fallout 4's mistakes. But I didn't spend the vast majority of my time in Fallout 4 talking, walking, or questing around the wasteland. About a solid third of my hours were spent making little settlements, setting up trade routes between them, and optimizing layouts of resources and workstations, and that's the first time I've been able to dig into a fantasy that I've had ever since completing the Caravan Guard questlines in Fallout 2. And that is running the caravan, establishing the settlements, moving the goods. A Fallout town builder is something that seems so obvious now, and it totally wouldn't have a month ago. And that's because of the shoddy and unpolished town building side of Fallout 4 that actually works as a great proof of concept for how fun a fully fledged post-apocalyptic town builder could be. After all, half the fun of watching the movies this franchise is based off of are seeing what kind of crazy town backgrounds the set designers think up next, so let's make a game out of that. Let's explore the ethics of a post-nuclear wasteland at the management level, and really get into the nitty-gritty of the economics and politics that these games always mention a whole lot, but rarely implement as mechanics. I mean, imagine how many places they could go, or things they could do, if Fallout Shelter was a real game. NCR Simulator 2016, Anno 2287, The Prims, let's do it, let's go. And that possibility seems just as exciting, but probably less traditional than a cheaper isometric spin-off going back to the older game's camera angle. Which wouldn't have to be a slap in the face to Bethesda's big FPSs if they were a numberless B-lister series to drum up interest in the bigger projects. The case example to follow being Lara Croft in The Guardian of Light. For the past 5 years, Crystal Dynamics have been making a couple isometric Diablo spin-offs of Tomb Raider of all things. It raked in fairly positive reviews while the mainline series was struggling with figuring out how to reboot itself, and it garnered enough attention to push out a sequel, and these things weren't earth-shattering releases, but they were just good enough. But the reason why hitting a similar level of production value with the Fallout spin-off might work so much better is because there's already an audience thirsty for old-school isometric RPGs ready to go. Wasteland 2 is the very game that Bethesda could be, maybe should be publishing, but they aren't. And if they gave a small team of Fallout veterans enough room and license to make a new isometric game in the franchise, it would be amazing service for the older fans and maybe do a better job of circulating more positive press towards the company from those guys too. Because the games Bethesda makes are jacks of all trade and masters of none. And it's time to see this franchise get treated by other developers with smaller projects that can afford to give those projects more focus. It may be totally optimistic of me to hope for the best from that kind of situation, but the track record here is New Vegas, and New Vegas was a prize pool good enough for me to bet on it again and again.